Hi, you are about to engage in the guidebook unit, The Witch of Blackbird Pond. The purpose of this video is to learn about a disagreement that arose between colonists in Connecticut in the 1600s, and the tensions that grew between two groups because of it. This will help you understand the conflict between some of the characters in the novel. Be sure you have your handout and something to write with for the video. In the mid-1600s, colonists in Connecticut had a difficult choice to make. Should they support the King of England, James II, or should they control the colony that they called home? As you read the novel, The Witch of Blackbird Pond, you will notice some of the characters are struggling with this choice as well. The colony of Connecticut, where most of the book takes place, was one of the 13 colonies of North America, established by settlers from England. The 13 colonies were the beginning of what is now the United States of America. You can find Connecticut here on this map of what is now the U.S. Connecticut was established in 1636 as a place for the Puritans, a religious group, to live and practice their religion in peace. Its laws were based on the Puritans' religious beliefs. In 1661, when England was under the rule of King Charles II, the people of Connecticut asked their governor, John Winthrop, Jr., to sail to England to ask the king for a charter. A charter was a document that granted the people in a colony permission to govern or rule an area of land. The Connecticut colonists wanted permission to rule themselves without extra laws from the king. After a couple of meetings with the king, Winthrop was successful, and in 1662 the Connecticut Charter was signed. This meant that the free men in Connecticut had the right to own and sell land as they pleased. This was a big deal, as up until then, people often had to ask permission to buy, rent, and farm land from the king, and they often had to pay high taxes and fees back to England in return. Now you are ready to summarize what you've learned so far about the Connecticut Charter. Pause the video and follow the directions on your handout. Press play when you are ready to continue. The Connecticut Charter was a document signed by the King of England, giving people in Connecticut permission to rule themselves. This meant that they could buy, sell, and farm land without having to ask special permission from the king, and without paying special taxes and fees. For many years, colonists lived and worked under the Connecticut Charter happily. However, problems began when James II took over the throne in England. The new king wanted a bigger role in governing the colonies, so he asked the governor of the New England colonies, Edmund Andros, to take back the Connecticut Charter. Andros tried for a long time to negotiate with the colonists, but many colonists enjoyed their independence and didn't want to return the charter. One famous night, Governor Andros grew tired of trying to negotiate and decided to take the charter by force. He took armed soldiers with him, and they met with Connecticut's governor, Robert Treat, along with many other colonists, in a meeting house in Hartford. Governor Treat gave a long speech, so long that night fell and the men lit candles. At some point, as the story goes, the candles blew out all at once, and when they were relit, the charter had disappeared. Some people say that it was hidden in a nearby oak tree. Despite the missing charter, Connecticut lost its independence and was governed by the king until the Revolutionary War in 1776. Some people in the colonies supported the king, and they wished to remain under England's control. These people were often called royalists because they were loyal to the royal family of England. They believed that England would provide protection, guidance, and supplies for the colonies. Other Connecticut colonists, however, disagreed with the royalists and wanted the charter to remain in place, to keep their freedom and independence. They didn't want people from across the ocean in England telling them what to do. They worried that losing the charter would mean that they would have to pay more money and taxes, and that the land they already owned might be taken away from them. Intense tension arose between the two groups of people. Often, a town was divided between royalists and those who supported the charter. So now you are ready to recall what each group believed. What did the Royalists think should be done with the Charter of Connecticut? What did the colonists who supported the charter want to happen? Pause the video and follow the directions on your handout. Press play when you are ready to continue. Royalists believed that Connecticut was better off staying under the control of the King of England. They wanted to give up the charter to Governor Andros. Other colonists supported the Connecticut Charter, and they wanted to keep it intact, to keep the freedom that they had in governing themselves. Let's read an excerpt from the book you will read in the unit, The Witch of Blackbird Pond. The speaker here is a sailor from Connecticut talking about his opinion on the issue. As we read, see if you can figure out whether the speaker is a royalist or a colonist who supports the charter. "'Twould do little good with a gale, or a strong wind, blowing to wait for orders from His Majesty in England. How can a king on a throne in England know what is best for the townspeople? A man's first loyalty is to the soil he stands on." Pause the video and follow the directions on your handout. Press play when you are ready to continue. The speaker of this excerpt is a colonist who supports the Connecticut Charter. He is not a royalist. We can tell because of what he says about the king. First, he points out that as a sailor, he doesn't like to wait for orders to come in all the way from England before making a decision. In the second sentence, he questions how a king in England could possibly know what's best for people in the colony of Connecticut, which he had never visited. Finally, his belief that people should be loyal to the land they live on implies that they don't need to be loyal to the country of England. Understanding the division that arose between colonists who supported King James II and colonists who wanted freedom through the Connecticut Charter will help you as you read the book and work through the guidebook unit, The Witch of Blackbird Pond. When you finish this video, be sure to turn in your completed handout to your teacher.